Death Note, Another Note, the Los Angeles BB murder cases. That name is a mouthful, but that's what this one is called. It is Death Note fanfiction, but I believe the creators of the original manga did later decide that it was canon now, so I guess it's canon now. I don't know. Wait, you move on.
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
So if you've never seen Death Note, there's probably not going to be a lot in this video for you, but it is a manga series which was later adapted into an anime and has several live-action movie adaptations, and it was the biggest thing in the world for a while. Like, it's still pretty well known, but if you weren't around in the late aughts and early 2010s, you don't understand just how big Death Note fever was. Like, anyone who was even a little bit into anime had seen Death Note and had very strong opinions on it. Most of those opinions were positive, but not all of them. And, there's obviously, again, the live-action movie adaptations, which, look, the Netflix Death Note is not great, but it is better. I think I have a higher opinion of it than a lot of other people do. It's not hard to see why people like Death Note, though. It's a classic thriller story. It has elements of a murder mystery, but it is still very much its own thing, and it's all about a fascinating villain protagonist who is playing a game of cat and mouse with the world's greatest detective. Explaining the plot in anything other than broad strokes is kind of difficult to do for people who have not seen/read the original series, because so much of what happens there is very weird and very cerebral and very technical. And again, I like Death Note. I like the original series a lot. But it's kind of hard to explain that, like, oh yeah, this guy is eating potato chips, but it's actually super intense, and it's part of his plan to continue murdering people without getting caught.
Just watch me, El. I'll solve equations with my right hand and write names with my left. I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Or these two guys are playing tennis, but it's also a mind game, and they're trying to figure out, like, okay, should I give up and just let the other guy win, or should I try my hardest and actually win? It's weird, man, okay? It's a weird series when you stop and think about it. And that brings me to the book, The Los Angeles BB Murder Cases, which has, it's pretty similar in a lot of ways. Like, it is kind of hard to explain exactly what goes on plot-wise without bringing you in there and telling you every small detail, so I'm not really going to be doing that. This is a prequel to the original story. It is all about Elle and Naomi Misora, who you might remember as the FBI agent who actually cracked the Kira case pretty much wide open, but then Light killed her pretty quickly afterwards because, well, I don't want to get too deep into this, but the writers of Death Note are not great at writing women. Let's just leave it at that. Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot more spoilers for the original Death Note here, just so you're aware. Because I'll say right now, this book that I'm talking about, there's nothing here for you if you have not already read/seen Death Note. So if you haven't done that, I would recommend going and doing that, because that's a very good show, and the manga is also very good. If you have, then maybe stay tuned here. And even then, there will be some minor spoilers for Death Note, Another Note, because the plot is just structured in a very strange way, and a lot of reveals that you would expect to not happen until near the end come in very early. But basically, there's a lot of murders in Los Angeles, and they're clearly the work of the same person doing serial killings, and so Elle and Naomi come in and try to solve it. And the killer is actively taunting them and actively leaving coded messages and stuff for them to follow, so they know who it is pretty early on, and the audience knows who it is pretty early on. It's really just more about them tracking this guy down and trying to get proof of what he's done, find evidence of his crimes, as opposed to trying to find out who the killer is. So in that regard, it does have similarities with the original Death Note story. And while it does stick with the spirit of the manga, I would say that this book is okay. It's not really great, not really terrible. It's just, yeah, it's okay. I guess mid is how the anime kids like to put it these days, but yeah, it's all right. I don't have strong opinions on it. It has, again, some stuff in it that is very true to the original story of Death Note, and it reminds me of everything I liked about Death Note, but it never does it quite as well as the original, so instead it just made me want to go read or watch Death Note again, rather than making me want to read this again or to find more stuff by the same writer. It does give some dimension to the world of Death Note, though, because I remember in the original series, L seems way too eager and willing to accept the fact that there's supernatural stuff going on. You know, he's pretty much the first person who figures out that, oh, hey, whoever Kira is, they have some sort of psychic power that's allowing them to kill people all over the place. And I don't know, even when I was a kid and I first watched that, I thought it was kind of a leap for him to take, but then that allowed the rest of the story to happen, so I wasn't too bent out of shape over it. But this prequel actually does explain why he's willing to accept that supernatural stuff exists, because we find out pretty early on that the murderer has Shinigami eyes. Now, for those unfamiliar or who just need a refresher, Shinigami are gods of death in the world of Death Note, and they have special eyes so they can look at someone and over their head they see their name, like their birth name. Even if you change it, that's still displayed over your head, as well as how long they have left to live. And if you enter into a deal with a Shinigami, a person can also get those eyes. And it's not actually explained how BB, who is the murderer in this case, how he got the Shinigami eyes. The book just says, yeah, some Shinigami are dumb enough to drop their notebooks in the real world, so maybe one of them dropped their eyes too, I don't know, which is silly, but again, it's supernatural stuff, and again, it's showing us how L was first introduced to supernatural stuff and why he was willing to accept it in the main story. Also, do you want to know why this is called the BB murder cases? Because the killer, there's no easy way to put this, the killer, his name is Beyond Birthday. Like, that's not a nickname or anything, his name is Beyond Birthday. And his victims are called Believe Bridesmaid, Backyard Bottom Slash, and Quarter Queen. Again, not nicknames, this is just how the author thinks American people are named, because this was originally written by a Japanese person and then translated. And if you're wondering, well, what's Beyond Birthday's motivation for doing all of this? Again, it's not like a big reveal when it happens, so I feel okay saying spoilers here. He is one of the kids that was raised at an orphanage and was trying to become a successor to L, you know, to become the next one in the line of the world's greatest detectives. And he just kind of went crazy and decided he wanted to prove that he's better than L by doing these murders, but he's also leaving evidence and clues behind that make it pretty clear what he's doing, and he's trying to find people that can catch up to him. I don't know, it doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense when you stop and think about it, but again, B is just crazy. He's a genius, but he's crazy. However, that is, again, another thing that was really big in the original story of Death Note, and one of the themes that carries through to this story, which is, I think, why the original creators of Death Note were okay with this being considered canon, because it stays true to the spirit of it. And that's, sure, B is a genius. If he really wanted to, he could just never get caught while continuing to do his murders, but that's not the point. He has an ego, and that parallels the ego of Light Yagami from the original story, because a big part of Death Note, and Death Note Another Note, is that people can be absolute geniuses, but still be brought down by their other flaws. You know, Light Yagami is the most obvious example. He is a genius, but he has a massive fucking ego, and in the end, his pride and his arrogance is what led to him being taken down. For L, it's his commitment to justice and his obsession with proving that Light is Kira, even though he already really does know that it's Kira. He just needs to find 100% beyond any shadow of a doubt proof, whereas in a lot of other stories, I think L would have just gotten fed up and either killed Light or had him killed. And that's a noble character flaw, don't get me wrong, but that is still a character flaw, and that's eventually what does lead to his downfall. And then we have B, who, again, is a genius, but he kind of wants to be caught, and he really just wants to prove to himself and to the world that he is better than L, and that's what leads to his downfall. So that's really one of the big central pillars of Death Note that makes it an interesting story, is that geniuses can be brought down by people who, even if they aren't also geniuses, even if they're less intelligent than them overall, they can still find their weak points and use that against them. Other than that, I will admit, I just don't have a whole lot to say about this book. Like, again, I thought it was fine. It's a short book. I got through the majority of it in a single day. So even if you're not super into it and you think it's a waste of time, it's not like a huge waste of your time. So I guess that's kind of a backhanded compliment, I suppose. Not what I was intending to say, but whatever. Death Note, Another Note, the Los Angeles BB murder cases is fine. If you are a really big fan of Death Note, if you really like the original anime or manga, then maybe check this one out. It adds a little bit more to the world. It adds a little bit more to the characters. But if you're not a big fan of Death Note, if you've seen it but you didn't like it, or you just aren't that familiar with it, well, you should go watch/read the original Death Note, and maybe then you can check this book out. But if you aren't really familiar with Death Note, then there's not going to be anything here for you, because it's not a great murder mystery. As a thriller, it's fine, but really the main thing I liked about it was that it stuck with the core themes and messaging of Death Note, and it expanded the world and the characters a little bit. That's all I have to say. Don't forget to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that other stuff. Check out my merch shop down below. Goodbye. Hello, if you made it this far, you're one of the elite few who has watched all the way through the video, and now you see these names here? These are the names of my patrons. If you want to get your name here, just send me money over on Patreon. It helps me keep the channel going. It gives you access to, early videos and bonus videos every month and, stuff like that. And my $10 and up patrons are Arthur D. Gonzalez Martin, Brothers Santotis, Carolina Clay, Chibs Ahoy, Ich bin Langweilig, Lexi Delorme, Lord Tiebreaker, Michael and Katie Hake, Mr. A5013, Proscriptions of Dwojang, Rovi, Psych XS, Slumbering Jellyfish Observing Outer Space, Tesla Shark, Toa Michael, Vevictus, and Wesley. All these people, you're all great. If you're not on here, you're still great. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to like the video, comment on it, share it around, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and, check your subscription box every once in a while if you are subscribed. I don't know why people don't do that, but a lot of them don't. And, just in general, keep on keeping on. Glad you're all here. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.